Hey guys, welcome back to Andy's Dinosaur Reviews, and today we are back with one of the most interesting figures Mattel has ever created. When we talk about the obscurity of some of the dinosaurs that they create, I think it's safe to say that this is the most obscure overall, and also the most speculative dinosaur figure Mattel has ever created. It is of a species I have never seen anyone take a stab at because of one good reason. The only thing that we even know about this species is footprints. That's it. So the fact that we actually have a figure out of a dinosaur that we only know of from footprints is pretty insane. So, I mean, I've really got to hand it to Mattel. When they go ahead and create something, you know, they took kind of a gutsy approach to this one, just creating something that we know so little about. So when it comes to whether or not this is an accurate version of this dinosaur, don't ask me, don't ask anybody. Nobody really knows. So I guess we'll just have to trust Mattel for now. But as far as the box goes, you can see it's just pretty much the standard box that we see from Mattel. Same deal here for the back. So let's pop it out of the box and check it out. So here is our Farlowichnus, and you can see, even if it is a highly speculative sculpt, it is pretty decent overall. Like, they actually did a pretty good job on the overall fine detail, as well as an interesting paint job. At first, I was not super impressed with the paint job of this one when I had first seen the original images of it, but having it in hand, I can say it looks, you know, not super exciting, but definitely a little better than I was expecting. If we go ahead and get nice and close to the head sculpt, you can see the head sculpt looks pretty good. We have lots of different variation to the scales here in the face, which do look really quite nice. I also love that red eye. The red eye looks really good on the figure and really pops. It also has a fantastic gloss coat on it. Honestly, I don't know if me telling you, come on, focus camera, there we go. I don't know if me telling you how good that gloss coat looks is really doing it justice, but in person it looks super lifelike. We've got some orangish tones that kind of lead up, almost like metallic orangish tones that lead up from the body up into the face and then kind of lead through or under the eye and then out into the snout a little bit. We can also see a different variation of color for the lower jaw, as we have a gray down there, a fairly dark gray. Unfortunately, it doesn't run down into the body at all. It's strictly there on the lower jaw, but the scale detail again looks really good, really crisp in that area. We also have like some, I don't know if those are feathers or ridges moving along the underside of the lower jaw down into the throat briefly. Kind of look like feathers to me. But let's go ahead and get the mouth open, because we do of course have an articulated jaw for this one. And you can see, of course, again, the teeth are not the newer updated teeth from Mattel, where they have a much more genuine sharp look to them. They are the classic kind of rounded out teeth, so they don't look that great, but they could look worse. At least they, you know, look okay for what they are. There are a few areas of the teeth that there's kind of like some spaces between. I don't know if they're implying that that's the way the teeth should look, or if maybe the dinosaurs just lost a few teeth. We can see the teeth on the lower jaw, though, look a little more consistent. They are all painted with a yellowish tone and are a little sloppy as far as the paint work goes, but they're not that bad. But you can see, like, the areas where the teeth are kind of missing, the yellow paint is still in there, and it's just some areas have a little bit too much paint, so it's kind of sloppy, but not that bad, I guess. But you can see the tongue on the inside of the mouth painted with a pinkish tone, and of course the skin stretching there on the inside of the mouth as well. And of course there's a nice satin shine for the inside of the mouth on top of everything. Up here on the top of the head, you do start to see some feathers pick up. It does have kind of like a fine coating of feathers. Come on, focus camera, there we go. A fine coating of feathers moving along the top of the head, and you'll see that moving through, honestly, most of the body as you lead along. Really fine feathers, not quite as, you know, dramatic as the feathers were on the Hypsilophodon. As you move down into the side of the dinosaur, though, we continue to see those orangish tones following through the body, basically just splattering through the side of the neck here. You can see the throat on the underside as well, some really crisp scale detail. On top of the articulated jaw, we do of course have an articulated neck, which this is the exact same articulation that all of these Danger Packs have had the entire way through this wave. As you lead down, you continue to see those feathers again on the top of the dinosaur, the really fine feathers following along the back, and then the scale detail following down here along the lower part of the body. We still have the oranges leading down, again following through. We've got some nice muscle definition here down into the arms. The arms also look really impressive in the aspect of the scale detail. Like, look at how good that scale detail looks leading down through the arms. You've got a nice bend in the elbow as you lead out into the hands. The hands also look really nice, and as do the nails. I feel like one thing, if you go back to like the early Mattel figures and look at the hands of their Raptors compared to the hands that they are creating on their figures now, they just look a lot more realistic, a lot more impressive, and a lot more crisp. So I have to give them props as far as that goes. But you do, of course, also have articulation in the arms forward and back. As you lead into the stomach, you can see some more injuries. Again, pretty much the same thing we've seen through the entire Chaos Theory Season 2 line. You can kind of make out the rib cage there in the stomach as well. As you continue to lead back, you do have some of the feathers coming down here and overtaking the upper part of the thigh, which is the only area where we really break up this orangish tone moving out into the tail. And then, of course, the feathers taper off and we are back to some scale detail as we lead down. Nice muscle definition in the thigh and calf. You've got some more injuries here and there. You can see the knee in the front of the leg. And as we lead down into the foot sculpt, you've got a really nicely sculpted foot here. Nice scoots down the toes, nicely sculpted nails. Again, we have the satin shine for the nails, helping them to shine fairly realistically, but not actually painted. I wish they would just paint them, but at least they do apply that little gloss coat to the nails, so it does look quite nice. And you can see the dew claw back there on the other leg. We, of course, have articulation in the legs as well. Forward and back, you know, the standard articulation. As you lead up into the tail, you can see some more nice skin detail, some skin wrinkles and stuff. We have more of the orangish tone as we lead out into the tail, but you can see at this point it starts to kind of like break up and, you know, taper off and disappear as we lead out. And once you get to about this point, it's pretty much gone, and then you just have a nice curve out there for the tail. You can see the feathers start to disappear here on the back of the tail as well, and at this point you are basically returned back to a nice scale detail. This one I feel like would be pretty fun to actually repaint. But overall, again, you're going to see pretty much the same thing again on this side compared to what we saw on the first side. You know, we follow the same trend as far as the detail, just different injuries, different positioning for the legs as this leg is taking a step forward compared to what we see on the other side. And you'll see different slices and injuries throughout the course of the body on this side compared to what we saw on the initial side. We do, of course, also have the Fax app code if you would like to add that one to your collection. There you go. But overall, again, even if it is an incredibly speculative figure, it is a pretty cool one. I can definitely give them credit for that. As far as a size goes, we'll turn it around again. Before I length from the snout to the tail, about just under 7 inches, or around 17.5 centimeters, and then for a height in the position it's currently in, about 3 3/4 inches or 9.5 centimeters. For a size comparison, there is Mr. Peppo T-Rex, the Attack Pack Colovosaurus, Robert Muldoon, and the Collect A human being next to our Farlowichnus from Mattel. And you can see again, as the Danger Packs always are, they're right there in the same similar size range you would expect. And then for just a little bit more helpful confirmation, you have a Mattel Velociraptor stepping in next to the Farlowichnus, which again shows you that they are pretty much the same size. And then we've got one final comparison here with all of the figures from this wave, excluding the Dimetrodon, because the Dimetrodon is a figure we've had since Dominion, and I don't think there's anything different on the newer Dimetrodon compared to the older one. I will, of course, take a look at it to make sure, and if there is something different, I will, of course, make a video and show that to you guys, but I'm pretty confident it's the same figure. But as you can see, these are the newest figures, introduced to the Mattel line in this wave. So honestly, Mattel, in my opinion, has really outdone themselves with this release when it comes to coming up with a species that, they knew nobody else was going to have a figure out of, and also one that they could pretty much go wild with when it comes to artistic liberties, which they really didn't take very many. Well, I mean, actually, the entire figure in general is an artistic liberty because we don't know anything about the species, but I'm impressed that they didn't go all out with a crazy design, kind of like they did with the Hypsilophodon. They took kind of a basic approach to this one, and I think it looks pretty decent for what it is. Like, sculpt-wise, it's very vibrant, very impressive looking. I like the fine detail throughout. I like the fact that we have a mixture of scales and feathers on the dinosaur as well. And overall, the fine detail looks really good, really crisp, like it has through the entire wave, and honestly, like it has for quite some time on the Mattel releases. I think it looks pretty pretty decent as far as that goes. It also does have some articulation throughout, which of course is always a great thing. However, every single figure in this wave has had the exact same articulation except the Hypsilophodon was missing jaw articulation. But other than that, again, same articulation through the board when it comes to this wave. It does have an okay paint scheme as well, nothing super crazy, flashy, amazing, but it looks good for what it is. It's just basically some greenish tones with a little bit of gray in the lower jaw and an orangish tone that moves through the body, but I do like the fact that the color runs all the way out onto the tail. Definitely a nice addition to the figure. Of course, it doesn't have painted nails or anything, but it's not that bad, I guess. At least has a gloss coat on the nails. So overall, it is a pretty cool figure. Some fun articulation, nice sculpt, nice paint apps, kind of for the most part. Just again, an extremely speculative species, and by far, I would say, the most obscure dinosaur Mattel has introduced to their line so far. If you are interested, just like with the others, I did purchase this on Big Bad Toy Store, which it is unfortunately sold out, but of course you can check the listing that I will include in the description anyway, because Mattel usually ends up sending some more stock over to Big Bad Toy Store and they restock them at some point, and also you could just wait and see once they pop up in store at some point in the near future. And of course, like, comment, and subscribe, and I will see you in the next review. Thanks for watching.